The smoke alarm was screaming when I burst through the front door, arms full of groceries for the celebration dinner I'd planned. 5 years of research, 300 pages of groundbreaking work on sustainable cancer treatments using algae-based compounds, defended successfully just 6 hours ago. Dr. Elena Vasquez, it still felt surreal. I dropped everything and ran toward the kitchen where black smoke billowed out like a nightmare. Mom stood by the sink, calmly washing dishes, while something burned in the metal trash can on the patio just outside. "Mom, what's on fire?" I grabbed the extinguisher from under the sink. "Oh, that's just your old papers," she said, not even turning around. Kira needed the desk space for her vision board workshop tomorrow. My blood turned to ice. "What papers?" "Those dusty binders from your room." "Honestly, Elena, you need to learn to declutter. Kira's influencer coach says physical space equals mental clarity." I shoved past her to the patio. The flames were already dying, but I could see the remnants, the distinctive blue binding of my thesis, the careful tabs I'd used to organize each chapter, 5 years of meticulous research turning to ash. No. I grabbed a garden hose, dousing the flames, but it was too late. Charred fragments of papers floated like black snow. A half-burned page with my molecular diagrams curled in on itself. Dramatic much? My sister Kira appeared in the doorway, 23 years old and unemployed unless you counted her 2,000 Instagram followers as a career. "It's just paper. Everything's digital now anyway." That was my original PhD thesis. My voice cracked. The one with my handwritten notes, my advisor's comments, the corrections from my committee. "So print another one," she said, examining her gel nails. "Anyway, I need that whole room cleared by tonight. My photographer's coming at 6 a.m. for content creation." I was saving that thesis. It had my original research notes that weren't in the digital files. Mom finally turned around, sighing like I was a toddler having a tantrum. "Elena, your sister's influencer career is taking off. She has real potential to make something of herself. Your little science project is done now, isn't it? Time to move on." "Little science project?" I stared at her. "I just defended my dissertation. I'm starting my postdoc at Johns Hopkins next month. This research could revolutionize cancer treatment." Dad walked in then, home from the golf course, still in his polo and khakis. He took in the scene, the smoke, my tears, the burned thesis remains, and laughed. Actually laughed. "All this fuss over homework?" He ruffled Kira's hair as he passed. "At least this one knows how to use what God gave her. Pretty sells better than boring science any day." "I have a PhD," I said quietly. "I'm 26 and I just earned a doctorate in biochemistry." "And Kira has cheekbones," he replied, opening a beer. "Which one do you think pays the bills?" Kira preened. "My sponsorship with FitFabT just went through. $300 for one post." "See?" Mom beamed. "That's real money. Not like your student loans for all that schooling." I looked at the ruins of my thesis, then at my family. My mother, who'd never attended a single science fair. My father, who'd asked if I was still playing with microscopes at my master's graduation. My sister, who dropped out of community college to focus on building her brand. "You burned my thesis," I said slowly, to make room for a vision board. "Her coach says visualization is key to manifestation," Mom explained patiently. "She needs a sacred space to dream." "I mapped the genetic sequence of 3 novel compounds," I whispered. "I isolated proteins that could stop tumor growth. I worked 18-hour days for 5 years. And now you're done," Dad said, already flipping on the TV. "So stop living in the past." I stood there, covered in ash from my burned life's work, and made a decision. "You're right," I said calmly. "I should stop living in the past." They had no idea what I would do next. I spent that night in a hotel, crying until I threw up, then channeling every ounce of rage into something productive. See, what my family didn't understand about boring science was that it taught you to be methodical, to document everything, to test hypotheses and plan for multiple outcomes. And I'd been documenting everything for years. Every dismissive comment, every time they'd mocked my research, every dollar they'd spent on Kira's career, while I worked 3 jobs through graduate school. The birthday they forgot because Kira had a photo shoot. The Christmas they gave me a gas card while Kira got a MacBook Pro for her content creation. But more importantly, I documented other things. Like how Mom had been embezzling from her job as a medical office manager for 6 years, billing insurance for phantom appointments to fund Kira's lifestyle. Small amounts, but consistent. I'd noticed during a family dinner when she'd bragged about her creative accounting. Like how Dad had been having an affair with his secretary and billing their hotel rooms to his company card as client meetings. He'd been sloppy with his receipts, leaving them in his home office where I'd seen them while looking for a stapler. Like how Kira's influencer career was built on bot followers, fake engagement, and most damningly, using photos of other people's weight loss journeys as her own transformation. Copyright infringement and fraud, all wrapped up in a pretty, filtered bow. The first phase was subtle. I created anonymous accounts and started commenting on Kira's posts. Not trolling, just asking innocent questions. Wow, your transformation is amazing. But why does this before photo look exactly like at Real Fitness Journey's post from 2019? Her real followers started noticing, started asking their own questions. Within a week, comparison posts were going viral in the fitness community. Influencer steals weight loss photos, made it to several drama channels. FitFabT dropped her within 3 days. Phase 2 targeted Dad. A concerned citizen tipped to his company's HR about potential expense fraud. They launched an investigation immediately. Turned out I wasn't the only one who'd noticed discrepancies. His secretary, feeling the pressure, admitted to the affair to save her own job. Mom came home to find Dad packing, his company car already repossessed. But phase 3? That was my masterpiece. See, Mom's medical office served a lot of cancer patients. People like Mrs. Chun, who'd been overcharged thousands over her treatment. People who deserved justice. I didn't report her directly. Instead, I sent anonymous tips to 3 patients I knew had been overbilled, suggesting they request itemized statements. Just to check. Just to be safe. The investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Turned out I'd only scratched the surface. Mom had stolen over $200,000 over the years. Federal charges were filed within a month. While their lives imploded, I thrived. My advisor, horrified by what happened to my thesis, helped me reconstruct what we could. The loss of my original notes was devastating, but my committee was sympathetic. Johns Hopkins even offered additional funding as a hardship grant. 6 months later, I was deep in my postdoc when Kira called. I almost didn't recognize her voice. She sounded younger, scared. Elena? I need help. What's wrong? Everything's gone wrong. My Instagram's deleted, Mom's in jail, Dad moved to Florida with that secretary. I can't pay rent. I don't have any skills. She started crying. I don't have anything. You have cheekbones, I reminded her. Dad said those pay the bills. Elena, please. I know we were horrible. I know Mom and Dad played favorites. I'm sorry about your thesis. I'm sorry about everything. I let the silence stretch. Then, do you know what my thesis was about? No, she admitted. Algae-based compounds that could make chemotherapy more effective while reducing side effects. It could help millions of people. 5 years of my life, burned for your vision board. I didn't know she was going to burn it. I just asked her to clear the desk. And when you found out, when you saw me crying over the ashes, what did you say? Silence. You said just print another one. Like 5 years of research was nothing. Like my life's work was worth less than your Instagram aesthetic. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know, I said. But sorry doesn't unburn my thesis. And it doesn't erase 23 years of being told I'm the ugly sister who should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention I got. I hung up. The call I got next was from Dad, angry and blustering. You destroyed this family. No, I corrected. I revealed this family. You destroyed yourselves. Your mother's in prison. Your sister's homeless. Is that what you wanted? What I wanted was to share my PhD success with my family. Instead, you burned my work and told me I wasn't pretty enough to matter. That's not, we didn't mean. At least she's pretty. Those were your exact words while my thesis burned. Tell me, Dad, how's that working out for everyone now? He cursed me out and hung up. I blocked his number. 2 years passed. My research progressed faster than anyone anticipated. We published papers that changed how the field looked at targeted cancer therapies. I won awards, gave talks at conferences, built a life surrounded by people who valued my mind more than my face. Then came the call that changed everything. Mrs. Chun, the patient whose case had helped expose my mother's embezzlement, was now in remission. But she was also on the board of a major cancer research foundation. Dr. Vasquez, she said warmly, I've been following your work. How would you feel about a research grant? Full funding, your own lab, complete autonomy to pursue your algae compounds. $3 million. My own lab at 30. A team of researchers under my guidance. The resources to actually make a difference. The day the news went public, I got one last text from Kira. She'd apparently gotten a job at a grocery store, was living with roommates, trying to rebuild. I saw about your grant. I'm proud of you. I know I have no right to say that, but I am. Mom always said I was the one with potential, but she was wrong. She burned your thesis, but she couldn't burn what was in your mind. I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to see it. I didn't respond, but I didn't block her either. Growth had to be possible, even for vision board influencers. A month later, I stood in my new lab, empty and waiting to be filled with equipment and dreams. On my desk sat a photo, not of my family, but of my thesis committee, my advisor, the colleagues who'd rallied around me when my work went up in smoke. Next to it sat a small potted plant. Algae, the kind that might one day save lives. My mother had been wrong about one thing but right about another. Wrong that Kira's influencer dreams were more realistic than my boring research. But right that physical space equals mental clarity. She just hadn't realized that the space I needed to clear wasn't on a desk. It was in my life. My phone buzzed. A text from a reporter wanting to interview me about my journey, about overcoming family adversity to achieve scientific success. I smiled and typed back. I'd be happy to share my story. But let's focus on the science. After all, that's what really matters. Pretty fades. Instagram followers disappear. Vision boards burn as easily as thesis papers. But knowledge? Impact? The ability to save lives? That's the real influence. And they had no idea what was coming next. The compounds we developed from my reconstructed research went to trial 2 years later. The success rate was unprecedented. We're talking about treatments that could give people decades instead of months. At the press conference announcing our breakthrough, someone asked how I'd persevered through personal setbacks. I thought about my burned thesis, my father's laughter, my mother in her orange jumpsuit, my sister learning humility one minimum wage shift at a time. Sometimes, I said, the greatest catalysts come from the most unexpected sources. Even ashes can nurture new growth. The headlines the next day varied, but my favorite was simple. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the beautiful mind who's curing cancer. Turns out Dad was wrong. Pretty doesn't sell better than boring science. It just burns faster.